will be a substantial reward for the one who finds the Millennium Falcon. You are free to use any methods necessary, but I want them alive. No disintegrations.
As you wish.
This is the emergency podcast system. This is not a test. Movies are bombing all over the country. They are posing as movies you already know. They may already be in your theaters, your neighbor's home, or even your own. Do not panic. Specialists have been dispatched. They will help you identify these pretenders and defend you against this invasion of the remake. Please stand by for further instructions.
Welcome to the Invasion of the Remake podcast. I'm your host, Jason Bishop, and this week it's back. Part 2. We're going to call this Part 2 to our ongoing saga, yes. Our Star Wars saga. Now, back in episode 23, this is even pre-Sam.
It is pre-me, yes. I was privy to that conversation.
He was in part 1. He's new cast.
Yes.
And
he's part of the reboot.
Episode 23, we compared Star Wars A New Hope to The Force Awakens. Mm-hmm. And at this point, there's been enough time that I think we can all agree that it's pretty remakey.
Yeah, it is pretty remakey.
It is, but it was sort of, I don't know, to me it's rebooty in a way as well.
Yeah, it's taking all of the beats, but putting it under new characters, and that's when I coined the term stealth remake.
Yeah, well, it's like what they did with Spider-Man.
Yeah, and back then, we also came up with this interesting concept of who the architect of the Death Star might be, and how he got the job. And then suddenly, a year later, there was a movie called Rogue One about just that. I'm not saying that we got that movie made, but we got that movie made.
And I also find it very suspicious that the love of our lives, Mads Mikkelsen, plays said architect.
Right.
There's a scary coincidence there.
I don't know. So whoever at LucasArts/Disney is listening to the podcast, we love you, and put us in your movie.
Yes.
I don't need lines. I want to be put up under some makeup, and it would be awesome. Or at least throw me a credit. That'd be good too, because nobody reads those.
Exactly. we can be buried at the very end.
Special thanks to Invasion of the Remake. That would be awesome. Thanks, guys.
Not even our names, just the podcast.
Yeah. Now, Sadie over on YouTube and a few others have requested us to do this again. And regardless of whether these movies have correlations or not, thank God it does.
So does.
And I'm going to, again, like we did in episode 23, because we gave this some time, and we wanted to make sure everybody got a chance to see this movie. And now that we're into end of January here, hopefully you have. But just in case, one of the few times we're going to do this, spoilers ahead. For God's sakes, our show is nothing but spoilers, but this one specifically, because it is still in the theaters, so just chill.
Yeah,
there's going to be spoilers, and if you don't want to be spoiled, just
wait.
Save this podcast until you've watched it, come back, and don't worry, you can be part of the conversation then as well, because it's a recording. You can join us whenever you want.
Exactly.
So don't get angry at me because I spoiled the movie for you, because I just warned you that it's going to happen.
Well, we've just said we're talking about it. What more do you want from us?
And we're making direct comparisons to it. So, yeah, they're guaranteed there will be spoilers.
Yeah, they certainly at least mixed and matched a little bit, and tossed around some of the correlations to do characters. And let's get your first thoughts about Last Jedi before we get into some of that, because I gotta say, I've been struggling with this all week since I saw it on Tuesday, and I just feel like something's missing, something's changed, and I'm not sure what it is. For me, maybe it's because I feel like they're trying too hard, like they're trying to make a Star Wars movie based on what they think a Star Wars movie should look like by using old Star Wars movies to make it. And maybe I've just gotten too old for it, I don't know, but when I read the Star Wars comic books and they feel more like Star Wars to me than the actual movies do, I feel like there's maybe a problem there. I mean, yeah, I even when I watched the prequel trilogy, as much as those aren't great, they still felt like Star Wars to me. There's a certain pace and a tone and a look, and I don't feel like they're there this time.
Well,
I don't think they've been there since Disney took over.
I disagree. I think Force Awakens had it, but maybe not, but certainly more so than this one. And honestly, I think this movie had an identity crisis because the first 5 minutes feels like a comedy. Then it feels like a Luc Besson film, and when you get into that whole casino thing, like there's no consistency, right? And I'm not.
Oh, and there's so much of it; it just seems like a waste of time to get you to 2.5 hours.
Right. And there's a lot of vitriol thrown about this movie, and I can see why.
Yeah, it's not bad because, I mean, it's a good ride. Like at 2.5 hours, this is a long fucking movie. This is almost half an hour longer than Empire was, but it doesn't feel that long.
No.
Well, the first 40 minutes does.
I don't know. I never felt it. Well, maybe I did feel it drag because I did sneak looks at my phone, going, "Oh my god."
Yeah. But after you get past that first act, it picks up the pace and becomes quite a good film. But that first act was hard.
Well, I don't know. I think the stuff that really drags is the Finn and Rose stuff, mainly for me because it just doesn't seem to have any point to it. It's pointless busy work.
Fucking futile.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the only purpose for that was to have them on that destroyer for that climax scene. That's the only purpose it serves, so that Finn and Phasma can confront.
Yeah, sure.
That's what it's there for.
It's the Boba Fett Han Solo moment.
It is. From Jedi.
Yeah.
So this is actually
there are a couple of Jedi moments.
Yeah, there are quite a few. Yeah.
Yeah, because she has her Jedi Boba Fett into the Sarlacc pit moment.
Yes, very much so. Like very much so.
Yeah, and it just falling into explosion.
And I don't know. I just felt after the buildup of having Captain Phasma in these movies, considering the amount of time Captain Phasma is in both, I was a little disappointed. I was expecting
more. It's
the
same way I felt about Boba Fett's death.
Well, this is at least they're keeping one of Lucas's things intact here. You like the character, so we're not going to give it to you, and we're going to blow them up.
Yeah,
that's just what it is, and a lot of times, and this happens throughout all of the various trilogies, is there's characters we kind of dig. We as fans come up with a lot of theories of who they are and what their deal is that never gets explained in the movies. It just doesn't. They wind up thrown in novels and comic books and other places, video games or whatever. There's all these theories about Snoke. Did they tell us of it in the movie? Nope. Did it matter? No. It doesn't matter. Really, if it's this person or this person, doesn't matter? No. That's not the point of it. It's because it's not Snoke's story. It's Emo Ren's. Yes. I'm going to say that through this whole podcast. Just buck up. It's Emo Ren.
It is totally Emo Ren. Did you find this movie particularly murderous? Like, they killed a lot of key characters. Like they brought in some really strong characters, and then boom, they're dead.
Oh well, yeah. Especially it's a new trilogy, and I feel like we got to kill at least one classic character in a movie. I think that's going to happen now.
What I feel is there was probably just a bit of disjointedness. Like we were talking about Rogue One, and I loved Rose and Finn together. Like I loved those characters.
I love their dynamic,
but. What it felt like what they were doing was they were doing the movie Rogue One in the midst of this movie, like going to get information.
There's a certain element of that, yeah.
Well, you want to know? I hate to say this because I really like Rose, and I think I took to her sister more than I took to Rose. Honestly, at the beginning when she sacrificed herself in trying to drop the bombs at the beginning of the movie, but Rose is there to sell to the Chinese market. We had strong Chinese actors in Rogue One, and that movie did really well. Problem is, with this trilogy, it does hinge on the original episodes 4 through 6 to drive it, which never hit China. So they're not as invested in those characters. So they got to create new ones that audience might like. And in the end, it was futile because it bombed in China. And I do believe that has a lot to do with that they don't have the full story.
That does make a big difference, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to see more of Rose. I mean, it didn't end well for her.
I know,
so I'm not sure if she's still with us or not.
But how it ended, I really part of her character, and like I say, I felt she was somewhat wasted until that final moment, and I'm like going, oh crap, because like she's a really big heart part of this movie. Like she's
a very different character than we've had in these before.
She is hopeful.
Yeah,
she's one of the few hopeful people,
and you kind of need it. And I think another thing about the complaints of Last Jedi is, and I kind of see it, is Luke comes off so dour in this movie, and because he's the more hopeful, or at least I always thought that, like, he was the most optimistic character in the original trilogy. But kind of looking back on it, and just looking at that family lineage, and even how that goes to here, and I'm like, you know what? He would have done this. Like having watched Empire now, there's a lot of I can't. This is too hard. That sort of thing. Like, and
there is, right?
And hardship. He will give up on hardship.
Yeah, and I read an article, a Vice article of all magazines, but the writer was pointing out that this Luke should exist. He's really finally realized what a sham being a Jedi is, what the Jedi religion is, right? And he references back to the original trilogy. He says it validates the entire first trilogy.
Well, right? And the Skywalkers are always in, this battle conflict with the light side and the dark side, and where they stand in that. They're always in conflict with that.
What I kind of liked about this movie is it's finally doing something that was just always like tiny little niggling in the back of my head with Star Wars, which I was always like, you have to be good, like super good all the time, but how can you be that way when you're out like lightsabering people? Like I couldn't get this I couldn't wrap my head around it. I'm like going, how can this be the ultimate if there's no gray area? Which is like, it is religious extremism and it's Jedi.
Yeah. And Luke's finally realized that.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of his character. And he even has that dialogue about it, right? Is how useless the Jedis really truly were, and how extreme they really were. You can't. And the thing that gets me is they always talk about how there's balance when there's only the light side. No, there isn't balance.
And there's two Sith.
Yeah,
that's not very balanced.
No, it's not balanced. If it's only light, that's not balance.
But it would be about, like, if you were to say that, like, the balance is about being more light, like, than dark, but like really knowing what that dark is and not shying away from it. That seems to be a more balanced thing. Like, to be a more balanced person is to acknowledge your flaws and be okay with them and know how to work with that.
Yeah. And I see that's where Rey's kind of going, is she's walking that gray line. That was the whole, I think, part of what was happening between Emo Ren and Rey, was that she's
that's going to drive people nuts. I love it.
It's going to be so much fun. But
his hair still looks fabulous, by the way, guys.
I hate that he smashed his mask. Because it's the only thing I liked about him.
What is he going to do with his hair now?
I know. Like, he just smashed his hairdryer. His fluffer.
Yeah. One of those hood curlers.
Well, like at the salons where they put the thing over your head.
Yeah. This is what happens in the future. Now you can carry it around with you.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
No, certainly. I mean, I think when Snoke pointed out the ridiculous helmet, because it was an affectation he took on in honor of his grandfather, right?
Yeah, and it was, and he just pointed it out like, this is a child would do.
Yeah.
And he had a child spat about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the strange thing about it. I think that's part of, I like how they're putting this, part of the dark side is to be childish and unable to control yourself.
To a point, because Vader was not childish in the end. During the first 3 episodes, he certainly was. Right? But as he moved more to the dark side, he became certainly more serious and sinister. Right?
But in Jedi, when he kind of comes back to everything, he does the most adult things. I'm going to save my child.
Yep.
That's what he grew up.
Yeah. But I think that's the great flaw of Kylo Ren, is you don't find him sinister. You find him petulant and childish.
Yeah, and he still is in conflict. He's very much a Skywalker in that regard. Yeah. Like, he's in conflict with family, duty, light, dark. Is it my parents or is it my grandfather I'm going to take after? And that's probably going to run through this whole thing. And I've got some theories of where that ends, but it doesn't matter.
Nope.
I don't know if I'm going to air them in this particular episode, because Is he going to survive it? I mean, at this point, he's done so many horrible things. Probably not. But he'll probably go out doing something good. I mean, we're already seeing. It seems like every movie he does something, one good thing amongst the 10 bad things he did.
Yes. But when we're talking about growing up as well, that's also part of it. Like, he's sitting there tied to what his grandfather was and what his parents were, and not truly becoming his own person, which is what growing up is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very much part
and
of his
he doesn't understand that yet. I think once he realizes, no, I'm not tied to any of this, I can be who I need to be, that would be maybe when he grows up.
Now, these new movies are very much steeped in nostalgia, and sometimes I think that's too much. But we're also nostalgic here on Invasion of the Remake, so let's run the original trailer.
Yay.
Luke Skywalker and Han Solo rescued the princess, destroyed the Death Star, but their story didn't end there. Creators of the biggest smash hit of all time bring you the next episode in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back. The continuing story of our band of heroes: Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca. And introducing Lando Calrissian. It's an epic of romance, of heroes and villains, they cross trackless voids to unknown worlds. Galactic odyssey against oppression. A big, new, sprawling space adventure in the Star Wars saga, The Empire Strikes Back. Coming to your galaxy next summer.
So, anybody recognize that voice?
You had to tell me, and then it took me a second.
That's Harrison Ford doing the voiceover on that. Announcer voice he is not, but it's certainly got shades of those 1950s sci-fi movies, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool trailer.
Come join us on the adventure.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you a bunch of shit you already know because, that's the point of the show where we're going to do that. Mm-hmm. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, from 1980, was directed by Irvin Kershner, who did Never Say Never Again, which we covered in Episode 34, because that's a remake of Thunderball, people.
Yep.
So go check that out. He also directed RoboCop 2. Of course, based on a story by George Lucas, screenplay by Lawrence Kasdan and Lee Brackett. Now, Kasdan wrote Silverado, The Big Chill, and Wyatt Earp, and Lee wrote Rio Bravo. A lot of westerns in here. Yeah. A lot of that adventure and 50s adventure. And that 50s sci-fi thing I was talking about, it's very much what inspired, especially the serials of the time, really inspired what Star Wars is.
Well, you're talking space western.
Yeah, that's really what the original trilogy was.
Well, you think about it, there is like a new action element in this about every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And you could easily chop that up into serials. Like, here's your cliffhanger, and,
Absolutely.
And this one ends in a cliffhanger.
And it does.
Empire is, it is definitely unquestionably a transition film, and Last Jedi feels the same way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think it has that kinetic serial feel to it like the original trilogy does, but it's still there. Mm-hmm. It's just not as kinetic. IMDb rating of 8.8 out of 10, and Rotten Tomatoes 94% with a 97 audience rating. Crazy good. Had a budget of $18 million and grossed $247 million worldwide. That is pretty awesome. Now, Star Wars The Last Jedi from this year is still bringing in the bank, so I don't have a total number there yet, but budgeted at $200 million, and we are at $1.27 billion and counting.
So doing pretty good.
It's doing all right.
And if we put in merchandising,
IMDb rating of 7.5 out of 10, not as good as Empire. Certified fresh rating of 90%, but only an audience approval rating of 49%. So that's pretty divided between critics and fans.
yeah.
Well, as both here at Invasion of the Remake, we'll maybe bridge that gap a little bit.
That's right. Of course, the original movie stars Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Peter Mayhew, Billy D. Williams, Anthony Daniels, David Prowse, Kenny Baker, Frank Oz, Alec Guinness, and more people. There's so many more people. And
Wedge Antilles.
But yeah, I mean, it goes on and on and on, and you know who all these people are, so I am not going to tell you. And nor am I going to do that for Last Jedi. But stars Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Adam Driver, Emo Ren, Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren.
That's the only time I'm going to tell you. Oscar Isaac, Andy Serkis. He was Snoke. Lupita Nyong'o?
Yep.
Maz Kanata. And Domhnall Gleeson as General Hux, who's very central in this trilogy. In fact, this New Order is pretty much birthed by that dude, and apparently that's in the novels and comics and things. Anthony Daniels and Gwendolyn Christie, who is Captain Phasma, and Kelly Marie Tran is Rose.
Nice.
And, of course, Laura Dern.
Yes.
Laura Dern. I like her. There's nice little Easter eggs all throughout this Last Jedi, and during the stupid racetrack sequence when they're looking for their master code breaker, where you see the water, very much nod to Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Okay, yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And see,
There's lots of little subtleties in this film.
Sure, yeah, no,
Lots of
there's
them.
tons of little Easter eggs in here.
there's so much to see. When they go down to that planet where like all the wealthy people are, that sort of made me, in a weird way, I was watching Empire. I'm like, it made me think of Cloud City. I'm like, what are they above?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was supposed to.
This
But
is totally the Cloud City moment. Like I said, things are out of order, but yeah, this is the Cloud City moment, and Lando is DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. Right into the betrayal.
Yeah, the betrayal, the whole bit.
But Lando is not as bad as DJ.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination.
I also have a theory, and we'll see, because we had lots of cool theories in our last one, and sometimes they turned into movies. So I have a theory, because when that whole emo Ren with Rey in front of Snoke thing happens, and then do Snoke in and have their little confrontation. Oh, I know who your parents are. And of course, this is very much like the final scene in Empire. It's like, Luke, I am your father.
Yeah.
This is, well, I know who your parents are. And I love the fact that she's special just because she's special. Whether he's telling the truth or not, I don't know. But yeah, your family sold you for cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
Or,
for booze,
Yeah.
money, liquor,
booze,
money.
liquor money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're a bunch of douchebags.
I love that.
I love that, but it might not be true. But
It would be awesome.
we
if it
have
was.
seen a douchebag in this movie. What if Dad was DJ?
True.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And to have somebody as big as Benicio del Toro, you got to think they're going to use him more than once.
You would hope, yeah.
But I also think the idea of this as well was the point that the Force goes where it wants to go. It isn't a family lineage, and it isn't. They kind of got rid of that inheritance stuff.
Well, I think it was so
Which I liked.
expected that she was going to be Luke's daughter or related somewhere, somehow. And there's so much of that expectation there that let's do the reveal. No, she's just special because she's special.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But alternatively, you can do
We
it
can
where
finally escape the Skywalker lineage.
Yes.
True. And also you can introduce the idea where the dynamic between her and Kylo Ren is kind of different, because at the end he does sort of see her as his mate, and it becomes less incesty when you do it that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And I get the feeling like they are hinting at the Force is starting to awaken again and move into people like that child
At the end,
At
Loved
the end
it.
with on that planet.
I squealed when I saw that happen.
Yeah, so I get the feeling that that's what they're moving towards, so they can start creating new characters and hint at new characters,
And new storylines
and new
without having to rely on the
storylines,
original trilogy,
which is
yeah.
great because if this trilogy is just going to be a repeat of the last one, I can't wait to get to the next one because I want to get out of this cycle.
You know what?
Because I've done this one already.
Yes, yeah, No, I'm looking forward to the standalone movies. I loved Rogue One,
I did too.
even though it tied into the original trilogy.
Rogue One still feels a bit fan filmy to me because I guess it's because you know what the finality of that movie is
Yeah.
before you going in. If you're an old fan,
Yeah.
True.
I mean, if you've seen the first Star Wars movies, episode
You know
4,
they all die.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
They have to. So it's really hard to get invested in these characters and feel bad when they die because you're expecting it before you ever see them. So as much as I think that movie's great, I had trouble getting invested in the characters because I'm like, I'm not going to get too attached because you're all going to be dead anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
that's
just
so
my
sad.
cynical adult.
It's better
in me.
to have loved and lost these characters than to
could've-
never have
they
loved
could
them
have at
all.
least saved the damn robot. He was awesome.
Yes. Yeah, he didn't have to die.
No,
It's true.
But yeah, I mean, we're not talking
Save
about that movie.
K2. Save K2. If you don't save K2, we're going to riot.
Okay, I liked him, but I don't know if it's riot level.
Now, maybe not.
Not so much. But it is disappointing because there were some great characters that would have been a lot of fun to see again, and that you know that you're not going to.
I can now revise my watching order of these movies. I think in our episode 23, we came up with a viewing order for new Star Wars fans. If you've never watched any of the Star Wars movies, you're looking for a starting place. And this is the best way, I think, to view these movies now. Episode 4, the original Star Wars movie, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. You get the reveal. The new order is Rogue One, Episode 4, Empire Strikes Back, where you get the reveal of Luke, I am your father. Then you go back to Episode 1, 2, and 3, kind of fill in that gap and that flashback and of how Anakin became Darth Vader. And then you watch Jedi Forward.
Yeah, and that totally works as a way of telling the story.
Yeah, I think it would work really good. I've been wanting to do this, watch it in that narrative, but I haven't yet.
Well,
It's a big time commitment. So
I was
it is.
going to say, you have to dedicate maybe a day or two just so that you aren't watching movies the entire time.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure people have, but with that original trilogy, I'm actually getting to a point where they're a little hard to watch for me because I could just recite them in my sleep.
I know.
Yeah, I didn't even rewatch Empire for this because I know I didn't have to.
I did because I just wanted it fresh in my brain, but I didn't have to, and I was half paying attention to it when I had it on. So.
I didn't. I just kept telling myself, "Oh no, I have to." It's quote unquote for the podcast.
No, I mean,
I felt more like that for Last Jedi. I'm like, it's for the podcast. I don't really want to be here, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I mean, we
good.
watch them twice a year anyhow.
Yeah.
So
I haven't missed a Star Wars movie in the theater yet.
No.
I went to the original one when I was 4 years old. So, and I've seen everyone in the theater. I didn't go back. I saw the re-releases when they did the special editions, but when they did the 3D editions, I skipped that because I hate 3D. But nothing.
and that wasn't necessary.
There wasn't enough changes to warrant that. So, and I've seen those movies in the theater alone several times, so I didn't have to go back again and do it again. But I haven't missed one yet, so I'm going to keep that streak going.
Well, I the first one I had to go back for the re-release, and that I count as my theater going experience because Empire was one of the very, very first movies I ever saw in a theater as a child. And I remember it because I remember being there going, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at 4 years old, I remember sitting on those little buckets because you're so small.
I was in a seat, but I remember my parents were probably really impressed because I didn't move because I was in.
Yeah. Oh, me and my bro, same thing. We were just enamored with the movie.
Yeah, I still love the movie. And I remember when I saw it in the theaters too. I mean, I've seen them all in the theaters too. So
A billion watches later.
Yeah. Something about this. I just,
Oh, that's just it.
Well,
It's part of our childhood, and as I got older, and I think maybe it was in my 20s there where it was starting to fade on me a bit. Mainly because all I had were the original stuff to watch over and over and over again. By the time the new stuff came out, it wasn't working as well, but you feel like you're being pandered to in that episode 1.
For me, it wasn't like the new stuff wasn't for me. I was too old, and some of the stuff, it just...
Yeah,
episode 1 definitely did not feel for.
Yeah, I know guys in their
20s.
20s now, and maybe early 30s, where their Star Wars movies was the prequel trilogy.
Yep.
And that's fine, because they were the right age. They were the target, whereas I was the target the first go-round.
Yeah, and
I might have been a wee bit younger than the target, but a wee bit by a lot.
that's the point of a lot of these movies. You can't, unless you hit that sweet spot of when you're a child, that's where your favorites come in, and that's where they stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true. But I mean, when you watch the original episode 4, New Hope, it wasn't for me at 7 years old or for you at 4 years old. It appealed to us because they were so amazing, but they were for the mid-20s crowd.
Yep.
Right. The prequel series, they were definitely catered towards that younger audience, that 7 to 12-year-old audience, right? Because that's where the merchandise is.
Yeah, well, and they were probably saw how much merchandise they sold from the first go-round, because God knows I had every Star Wars action figure on the planet. I wish I hadn't sold them off in a garage sale, because it had a small fortune there, but...
We lost Han Solo for a while, but we found him.
Yeah.
I still got a couple kicking around. I still have my Rancor monster. But that's there's a few things I rescued, but
we had an AT-AT.
Most of my stuff. I had the Chicken Walker, but I didn't have a full AT-AT.
We had that, and
That's
we had
pretty
Millennium
awesome.
Falcon.
I had the Millennium Falcon. I had an X-Wing. I had Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. I had the Hoth set. I had the Droid Factory.
Oh, nice.
I had
Didn't
so
have
much
those.
stuff. The Ewok Village.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Cool.
So much stuff. I had so much stuff. Lots of ships. And virtually every action figure on the planet. If they weren't super, super rare, but there were some that were released in Canada, and we did yearly trips to the States that I'd pick them up at the
Sweet.
White Elephant in Spokane.
Nice.
Which is still there.
Yeah, it was still there.
At least
I
it was last
remember.
time it was
I remember
Spokane.
one set. It was after Jedi. It was one of the last sets, and they were just unboxing them, and I took one of everything.
Nice.
And of course, I don't have any of it anymore. Of
course.
so whatever. Everybody's got their horror stories, and that one's fine.
You don't realize at the time. You're
No.
young.
You're a kid. They're toys. They're
No.
not collectibles.
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's get back into the comparison aspects of these
Yeah.
movies, and like I said, there are quite a few parallels. We talked about the Cloud City moments,
And I was going to mention something about that, but we got sidetracked.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
That whole bit feels like a Luc Besson movie to me. I mentioned it earlier, but it feels like something out of Fifth Element or Valerian and the City of Tomorrow movie. Like, it has that look and feel to it, which is, I think, part of what people complained about. Is it doesn't feel like a Lucasfilm. It feels like a bunch of other films put together, that sort of all mushed into one. Right? I like it, and I mean, you're always going to have a sort of different feel based on the director.
all these planets and systems have a unique look and feel to
Yeah.
them, and I'm okay with that. But it did feel a little more indie film in those scenes.
Yeah.
I would kind of work against the Luc Besson stuff, because it didn't look as polished as it should have. And maybe that's part of it. This whole movie feels a bit gray to me in comparison to what I'm used to from a Star Wars movie.
I wonder if it isn't because in like all of kind of the previous films, we never in the entirety that I can recall experienced, like, we have the rebels and we have the people who are beaten down by the Empire and all this stuff. We never see the wealthy who are benefiting entirely from the Empire. This is the first time we see it. So we're used to all those kind of dirty cantinas, which
You see
feel
a
really
lot
real
of
to us.
the business and the dirty aspect of business within the prequel trilogies. That's a big deal with the
Yeah.
politics and big business. But you don't see the people who are benefiting from it in these
Yeah.
casinos that are on this planet.
And
And
sets
the
up
dirty cantinas feel realer.
Yeah,
Yeah, but this set up a great bit from DJ, right, where he talks about the gray, the actual balance, right, where he's showing them that
Don't
it's-
join. That's what DJ stands for. Don't join.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's literally on the plate on his head.
yeah, which is awesome. But there's that scene where they're looking at all of this stuff that this arms dealer had sold to not only the First Order, but to the rebels.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there's no good or bad.
Yeah.
Right?
They're not picking sides. They just see opportunity.
Yeah,
well, and
and
that's the point. Like, these are the real enemies of this. They're keeping all of this going between the Empire and you guys. You guys are just the people making them wealthy.
Customers.
You're just customers. And as long as they keep the two of you doing this, they get wealthy and both of you get fucked.
Yeah, and it talks about the gray area, right? Like that balance isn't all dark or all light. It is the middle, and that's what that also points out. Is that it is the middle. Right?
Before we get to the comparison, back to the comparisons and stuff, how is it? And this goes back to like A New Hope and Empire, as well as Force Awakens, between Force Awakens and Last Jedi. How is it you blow up a Death Star or a Star Killer and you're winning, and suddenly you are now backpedaling? Like, how badly did the rebels fuck up in between to get to this point where they are so on the run and dilapidated and their forces are being decimated? I mean, I get it, because you have to scrape up even further when you get to the next one. They'll fight back and win against all odds. That's kind of what they do. But what's the story here? Because there's almost another movie that I want to see here.
and how do the timelines work? Because I mean, Rey's story starts literally at the moment that the first Force Awakens ended, right? But the Rebel stuff starts clearly sometime after that, right? But at the same time, Rey's travel time to finding Luke, maybe sort of where that time fill was in, but that couldn't have been that long.
No. I guess if your planet's blowing up, you go straight after the ships that did it, but maybe it's not as bad as it is, because they did try to call for help to the other bases, so obviously the rebellion is still out there.
It also might be about kind of numbers in ships. Like, the rebels are the ones who sort of have the smaller ships, and not as many as them. So like, one huge loss is a giant loss for them. For the Empire, they still have a fuck ton of ships. But that's so even a minor loss, even a huge loss for them isn't a big loss.
Yeah. And how did the First Order, basically on the same structure of the old Empire, come back and take hold of the galaxy again when the rebellion had won after Jedi?
Wealthy people at the casinos.
Wealthy people at the casinos.
Don't forget, in Force Awakens, they destroy the 3 main planets from the Republic. They destroy the Republic.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Using the Star Killer.
Yeah.
Right? So
and that's a huge amount of damage.
And I think that's why the rebels are struggling to get it back, because the Republic's gone. Right? They've taken over. And the First Order literally rose out of the ashes of the Empire, never went away. There was always that battle.
Yeah.
But they've been growing stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where they are now a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Right? And they do have the support of the wealthy, because just like in normal politics, the wealthy are the conservative, control the weak kind of
they want to
people,
oppress the most people so that they can just
continue
keep all the money.
Yeah.
So that's just what they're doing. And the Empire won't go after them, because that's where they get their money.
That's right. They're a protected group.
Somebody tweet Donald Trump's head on General Hux's body, please.
Yeah, well, he's got the orange hair too, so there you go. See, orange-haired leaders, guys. No, I am a ginger. Maybe not.
Let's get back to some of the comparisons here. Another one that they pulled right out of Empire, which I kind of dug, was Luke is Yoda through this thing, but he's kind of anti-Yoda, because he's trying to talk her out of it through his lessons. But she does find very much a similar thing to the cave. It's more of a pit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she even has that moment where she's facing herself, which was multiple
really
reflection. It's a little different
gorgeous.
than having your face in Darth Vader's head in the mask thing, but it's a very similar scene in that regard, and it was really cool to see. Well, that's so far away. Well, let's just jump to the one that's in the front of the line, and it was kind of cool. Was kind of just facing yourself,
and and being lost within yourself.
Yeah,
like it's all her, but she's still lost in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and but it was just so much fun to watch, because it was so well handled, and that's one of those things that speaks to the skill of the director, because a lot of people kind of are picking on the director for this film. Like I said, it's
I mean, Rian Johnson, he did Looper and Brick, and like,
Two great films.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
one's a fantastic neo-noir kind of teen movie, and the other one is a fantastic science fiction movie. Like, he's a very capable writer. Based on those two movies, though, I'd much rather see him do more of those than Star Wars movies. But if he can bring that kind of writing into it, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I can see why they might hand him a new trilogy. I don't know what that is, but
I think that he needs something where he's not restricted by canon.
yeah,
I think that was the biggest problem for this director is he's a very creative mind and very good with original ideas, but working within somebody else's structure might be challenging for him.
yeah. And JJ coming back in the next one, he's very much capable of like, oh, that's what you want? Fine, that's what I'll give you.
Yep.
You want Jedi? I'll give
I
you
know
Jedi.
what this is. I'll give this to you.
Yeah.
So if you thought Force Awakens was a repeat, you're gonna get it again.
Well, the nice thing about it is they've taken away in this movie they've taken away some of the elements from Jedi already. Right?
Yeah, that's true. They
Right?
have.
Exactly.
They can't duplicate them again and have people think it's new. It's just
Yeah.
not possible.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Right, because there are quite a few Jedi moments in here. Porgs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't equate them to Ewoks. Although I was kind of rooting for Chewbacca. They're giving the sad face. I'm like, fucking eat it, man. You're hungry. It looks delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that seems sort of a little bit
Porg
out
nuggets. I was like, I could do a whole McDonald's franchise with porgs. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
but you can't eat cute apparently.
yeah, that scene seems sort of out of nowhere in a way.
He'd already killed one and skewered it.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, wait, this, and the one that he killed didn't give him cute eyes?
He got it from behind.
Yeah, it was a way of keeping them in the story. I mean, the only reason the damn things were there was because they couldn't. It's cheaper to CGI the porgs than it was to CGI all the shit on the rocks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is the only reason the porgs exist.
I like the idea of like something bird-like on a cliffside beach.
Oh, yeah,
like,
no,
that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we got seagulls and things like that. Why not do something that's kind of a mix?
Yeah.
I thought that was a great idea. They didn't really need to be taken,
But
with.
they don't have to be part of the story. They are part of the fauna.
Once he takes them back on, and Chewbacca's got some on the ship, it's like, okay, now they just feel like tribbles.
Yeah.
That was my exact worry.
Yeah.
That was my exact worry, is they just start to breed within the Millennium Falcon and terrible things would happen.
Yeah.
Well, that could be in the third movie.
Yeah. But
Let's see if they steal that.
I mean, you can look at it a different way. Chewbacca's lost his best friend,
Yeah.
and it's still fresh and sore.
Yeah,
Right?
so he needs something.
So he's looking for something to take care of because
Yeah.
Han was who he took care of.
That's
Oh,
true.
absolutely.
Right. So I think that's a valid way of bringing them in.
Yeah.
Right. And because Chewbacca doesn't have any dialogue, how do you convey that?
Yeah.
I think it would have worked better if they hadn't had him cooking one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it all
And
happened.
I think Jonas, by the way, Sutamo, who's the new Chewbacca, did a fine job as Chewbacca.
Absolutely,
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
Just saying.
He's looked at Peter Mayhew's. Well, they worked with each other on the last one, so he's seen how Peter did it. He's probably seen all the previous movies. He knows Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, he can play a different Chewbacca again because he's heartbroken.
Yeah.
Right. His best friend is gone. What does he have left?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long have they been trolling through the universe together?
We'll find out in Solo in March.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking forward to the card game where Lando
Yes.
loses the Millennium
Yeah.
Falcon too.
Yeah, and I am still surprised that Lando hasn't.
Assuming
shown
this
up.
movie doesn't get reshot again, because
Oh,
it doesn't sound like it's going too well. Solo could be a disaster.
Oh no.
Well, they only have a couple months left, so
I know the studio's not happy with what they've got. But
Oh.
God knows they've got 2 movies we're sitting there.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, if you want to do a good Han Solo movie, we're willing to wait. We don't need a Star Wars movie every year.
True.
We don't. I mean, nobody needs any of that
Yeah.
that often.
Or-
I mean, we went like literally decades between movies.
Yeah.
So if it's another 6 months to a year, we'll be fine.
Well, and-
We'll be okay. We're willing to wait. We'd rather have a better product.
the
yeah,
than a
first
we'll
rushed-
wait till a
trilogy-
Christmas release
Yeah.
happily.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We-
I'd rather that than a rushed product.
Well, when we waited for the first trilogy, we waited like years between movies, like 3 years. So, and we were fine and we lived.
Yes.
And we still bought all the stuff.
And that anticipation.
So please don't worry about that.
And that anticipation just builds through that time. So if you know you're getting one every year, that you might actually be working against that.
Exactly.
And then it just becomes trite and old hat.
Fatigued. You get fatigued.
And that's sort of the Disney business model.
Yeah, we're already 3 in 3 years.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe that could be it.
crazy.
It's maybe probably what you feel like with the Disney thing. It just seems to come at you all the time, and maybe that's why you're not feeling the same way.
But then again, they don't seem to be tiring of Marvel movies, so at least not yet.
Every once in a while, I
Black
get a
Panther
little
hasn't
fatigued.
even opened yet, and they got ticket sellouts.
I know. I'm totally looking forward to that one. But anyway, back to this one.
Yes, more comparisons. There's
More
lots
comparisons.
Yeah, well, throw me one.
of them. The end scene is Hoth, right? It's
Oh
not this
God,
one.
yes.
Yeah.
I love how they go, no, this isn't Hoth. Salt.
Yeah.
He licks his finger like, oh, it's salt. It's nothing like Hoth. It's totally Hoth.
Yeah.
They braced up the AT-ATs because they didn't want the tow cable bullshit again.
Yeah.
So when I was like going, oh, cool, they kind of look like gorillas. I'm going to call them gorilla walkers.
Nice.
Yeah, no, but it is definitely representative of Hoth.
Yeah, absolutely the Hoth scene.
Yeah, and I
like I
love
said, that's why I said everything's there. It's just moved out of order.
Yeah, I mean, right down to the trenches.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right down
Yep.
down to the trenches. But it is an old rebel base, so the trenches make sense.
Yeah.
And with the speeders coming in low and fast to try and get.
I do love the way
Blockers.
when the speeders and whenever that dirt gets scuffed or the salt gets scuffed, the red underneath,
Yeah,
it
the
just
red sands
looked
underneath.
freaking
Beautiful.
great. It was really fun, like a great visual for me.
Yeah, and those stabilizers just to keep them on these old rust buckets. I don't even know what they would have been originally for, but they were great.
They were great, and that whole, they made a real point of showing that, and there's a reason for it. And is when you watch the fight between Kylo Ren and Emo Ren, and Luke. There's this bit where they're dragging their feet, and Kylo brings up the red, but Luke doesn't. They're telling you he's not there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually telling you that he's not physically there.
Yeah. Well, that's a good setup. Let's listen to the trailer for The Last Jedi.
Sweet.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now. Let the past die. Kill it. If you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be. We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down. Come on! This is not going to go the way you think. Fulfill your destiny.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
You know, even having just seen that movie, and does sound like I was ragging on a little bit, and, I'm acknowledging some of the bad stuff as well, but just watching that trailer again makes me want to watch the movie again. So,
Absolutely.
like, there's so much to like about it as well.
Well, I have seen it twice, and I will admit I enjoyed it more the second time than I did the first time. I think the first time I got a little overwhelmed, and my expectations were too high.
Yeah,
to be
That
honest.
can happen.
Right? As I was expecting something on par with Empire, and this one wasn't. I'm sorry, it wasn't on par with Empire. It grabbed elements from it, but it didn't. It doesn't stand out as a standalone film to me. Like I said, it feels like a transition film, whereas Empire doesn't feel like a transition film until the very end.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it feels like a complete story, whereas this one doesn't. You know that it's just they're setting up the final battle.
Yeah, I do feel like there's stuff in there that just feels like padding to me. Like, man, Finn's story, like, I love it when he has that confrontation with Phasma, and I needed more of that. I needed a little bit more setup there and a little more confrontation with Phasma, but that was great. But the whole, let's get the code breaker to break onto the ship so we can escape this, what is essentially this giant chase going on through this whole movie. This really slow OJ chase.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the OJ chase.
But at the whole point, you understand. I liked how they justified how they're stuck. They'll still get tracked if they go to hyperspace, so it makes sense. They're just trying to stay out of range.
This is, I mean, yeah, Poe Dameron, he has got the most interesting story to me because, yeah, he was very much the blunt instrument at the beginning. Let's just hammer away at them, and if a couple things get through, and at the loss of a lot of lives, and he gets demoted for it, like, you've got to be a better leader than this. So this is, in this way, his way of thinking, great. You are trying to think of a more passive way without risking as many lives to get something done, but he does it out of the chain of command when there was already a plan in place. So there's a lot of learning stages for Poe Dameron, and I think he ends in a very good position where he's finally figured it out.
Yeah.
And which is great because, I mean, we lost Carrie Fisher this year, and she can't be that role anymore.
And she can't be there to guide him.
No. And which is really unfortunate. I don't know how much footage exists for that next movie, if any at all. But and I don't know how they're going to write her out.
I was worried with that whole sequence where she gets sucked out into space. I thought, this is where it happens.
It was so cool. And that was clever because when they did that, and maybe that a lot of that CG is because she's in a coma for most of the movie now. So now you have Laura Dern stepping into that role. So that would have been a lot of stuff that probably was Princess Leia that got rewritten slightly so Laura Dern could facilitate that.
Yeah.
And did a splendid job. I was a little irritated that Laura Dern was killed off because,
like I said, murderous. They just love killing people in the
she was so good. I really wanted more of her.
A bold way to go. Like, I love
the method that she used to save the rest.
Oh yeah.
When you see, like, when they're like, what is she doing? And you come to the realization,
hyperdrive into the Star Destroyer.
Holy crap.
It was really cool visual. But let's talk about how they wrote Princess Leia out of the film for a while. Is when she gets sucked out of the ship and you're like, oh shit, they just killed another original cast member. But then she wakens just in time to force pull herself into the ship, and I'm like, that is badass. When did she learn how to do all this? Yeah. And you think back that, well, maybe she was learning with the other students along. Maybe she was learning with Emo Ren
Luke?
and the rest of the students at that time when he was training new people, and she learned a few things.
Or even before.
We already knew she had some Force talents. They were just untapped.
Yeah.
Because even in Empire, she senses where Luke is at Cloud City to rescue him.
Yeah, and even earlier in the film, is it Obi-Wan and Yoda are talking, like, is that the last hope? No, there is another. She was the other.
Yeah. She was the other.
And so she is capable of what Luke can do and maybe even more.
Yeah.
Right? But she never really got the opportunity to learn as like the way Luke did. In some of the books that are no longer canon, but still kind of would inform this, is that she did try to learn, but because she was a political figure and a general and all that stuff, she just didn't have time to devote to it. So she understands the use of the Force and can use it to a certain extent, but not as a Jedi.
Well, it's like training. Like you probably have the capability to do a marathon, but unless you're training all the time, you're not going to get there.
Yeah.
That story with Princess Leia and Poe Dameron and Laura Dern's Vice Admiral Holdo, loved all that stuff. You know, this contention between Poe Dameron and Holdo, and she is very much a strategist like Leia is, and does things in a more subtle way, less of a hammer, and I think it's brilliantly done. I really enjoyed that aspect of that story, and when we see Poe Dameron again, he's going to be a much more capable leader.
Yeah, he's like, I hate to make these comparisons, but he's the Han Solo character.
Absolutely.
Right. Like, there's no question that he is. I'm not sure who Finn is. I think that's part of my problem is I don't know who Finn is, right?
You know, he's coming from a different spot. He's a bit of a coward he's in a way
much a coward.
He's the scarecrow or cowardly lion.
Yeah.
He's the cowardly lion from Wizard of Oz who's finding his bravery and finding something that he believes in that's worth fighting for instead of something he's forced to fight for.
And he gets, every time that he kind of sort of reaches that point of growth, it's always through his relationship with another character. In the first movie, it's his relationship with Rey. In the second movie, it's his relationship with Rose.
And because of these interactions with these characters, he's being built up to be something bigger than he feels he is, and that's really a central part of where his character is in this movie. Is he's being looked at as a hero, but he hasn't got there yet.
Yeah.
Well, and
he is trying to run.
Yeah, the only heroic moment he has is when he's prepared to sacrifice himself to get rid of that cannon.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's his turning point.
Yeah, that's definitely his turning point, and he's going to be very much a different character by the next time we see him. And Rose wasn't going to let him do that.
Yeah, that's sort of the other bit about it too. Is like his sort of journey sort of parallels Poe's as well, as when he's doing this, and then Rose is the one going like, guys,
there's a bit of a love triangle happening there too, because Rose is very enamored with Finn. I don't know if it's hero worship or she's genuinely falling in love with him, whereas Finn very much is in love with Rey.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that might even be reciprocal, but I can see Poe Dameron, having now first met Rey in this movie, being taken with Rey. So, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and I can really see a lot of things, dynamic changing within these four characters.
Which is genius, because in the previous trilogy, you only had the one option, right? It's going to either be Han or Luke, right? Now you've got all these great characters. And I think the thing I like about Finn is he is the only truly new character in the whole series.
We have
he
no
feels
analog.
unique. Yeah.
That was the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Is that there is no analog for Finn. Everybody else there is a direct comparison to a certain
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Rey's Luke.
Yeah.
And Poe Dameron's definitely. I mean, he's a rebellion, but he's not the space pirate. But he definitely is the roguish Han Solo like character for sure.
Unless Finn's C-3PO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rose is new too, though. Like I can't think of an analog for her.
No.
I mean, Luke Skywalker himself winds up becoming the Yoda character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's exactly. So there are parallels throughout the series, but Finn's the one who feels like a genuinely new character, and I like the way that they use his knowledge of the First Order in this movie, right?
And it makes sense.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he's self-deprecating in that moment. He says, "Well, who best to find it than the guy who used to mop the floor there?" I love that line.
Oh my God! Finn and Rose are R2-D2 and C-3PO.
Nice.
They are.
Rose is R2.
Yeah. Yes. Where Finn's like the one trying to run away from the violence.
And
like,
Rose is like
shit.
bleeping and blooping, like, quit complaining, we're doing stuff.
And she's been buried and mopping floors and looking after units and making sure nobody runs.
And even think they have the same job. They're technicians and janitors.
She's a technician who's becoming a hero as well. So, oh my God, they're just the human analogs of the robots. Oh shit, I just realized that.
Oh, that's so great.
Well, that was what I said, is Finn C-3PO. He's the cowardly lion, right? Which is C-3PO.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
my God.
he's getting more courage than 3PO kind of ever had.
Yeah.
So it's like it's the dream for 3PO.
Well, Finn's capable of change, a robot's not, or an android's not.
Well, I don't know. They're supposed to be learning stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I assumed.
Now, there's probably a story here somewhere, but in Empire Strikes Back, if you were on Vader's ship, who the fuck did you piss off to go on that ship? And to be working on that ship, because you really must have gotten a lot of deep shit, because that's almost like a death sentence.
Yes.
It is.
Nobody wants to work for Vader, and if you are, you want to be the janitor who never. Eventually, you're going to be promoted to vice admiral, so at least you got enough time to hopefully get off the ship.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird promotion thing. These people, I don't. It goes into a lot of stupid I see villains have in movies, like Bond movies, Bond villains. Sometimes I don't want to work at the volcano because stuff's going to go bad.
I'm kind of glad that Emo Ren just smashes shit instead of kills people.
Yes.
Whereas Darth Vader, he was just like,
You have
dude,
displeased me.
You've displeased me.
Yeah.
Like, dude, no wonder you people lost.
Exactly. If you keep killing your management, you get the guy who's like, you know why he fucked up? It was his first day because you killed the other guy the day before.
Yeah, he hasn't had a chance to learn his shit.
There is no learning curve in your organization.
Good Lord.
HR must be shitting themselves every day.
It's like, okay, dude, you really can't do this. You see this pile of papers? They're lawsuits. They're liability claims.
Oh no, it's the new. It's
I'll
the
just
new
kill
order.
all the lawyers.
Yeah, it's the new order. They're apparently just doing what they want.
That's at least something Snoke taught Emo Ren. Don't kill the help.
Yes.
That's my job.
I have one comparison I definitely wanted to do that I forgot about. Okay, it's between Empire and Last Jedi, where Yoda shows up as ghost form in the new one. And it reminded me, because there's a point when he's training Luke, he's like, you're not concerned, always thinking about the future, always thinking about, you're never concerned to where you are at that moment. And they do a callback in that bit where Luke's double guessing whether he should like burn the whole Jedi stuff.
And Yoda comes back and does call back to it. And Yoda plays the Obi-Wan character, because that ghost, that whole ghost scene in Empire.
Back to being a puppet too.
Yes.
That was kind of nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Nice throwback that they didn't have to do, because it doesn't look as good as the CG stuff, but to me it's like, now this is right.
Yes.
Even though it doesn't look as
He
good.
actually looks like Yoda now.
Yeah, he does look like Yoda.
Well, and to me, when you're talking about like the ghosts versus the people who are alive, if he's a puppet, he seems more alive to me than a CG Yoda. A CG Yoda looks more like a ghost to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, well, you don't need him bouncing around and with the lightsaber and stuff this go around, so let's use the puppet because it'll make us old people happy.
Yes. Now, this leads me to a question that I have. Do we think that we're going to see Luke come back as a Force spirit?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I think yes. I think that is probably, I mean, for a guy who wound up using all his power up to project himself to another planet from his little island hideaway.
That's in the far reach of the
literally
galaxy.
not dying, just joining the Force.
Yeah.
Although, why didn't his hand clunk to the ground? Huh. His cloak did, but his metal
cloak,
hand...
They never showed what happened with his hand.
But his metal hand should have fallen with the cloak, because it's not technically a part of him, right?
Yeah.
But maybe that's just the whoops. I don't think that'll ever get
knows?
explained.
Yeah.
But there you go. There's a little that should have happened but didn't.
Yes.
The one thing we missed.
Yeah, and maybe it will. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe in a book or something. Maybe he lost it. Maybe he took it off while he was sitting there.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. No prize. But the sheer use of the Force where you're joining with it in that regard. Although we kind of see that with Obi-Wan too. He didn't get so much struck down as he joined with the Force before the
Blade hit him.
blade hit him and just cut him in half.
Yeah, like it seemed like he
chose
just cut
to
the
join.
cloak.
Yeah, there wasn't anything left to cut. So he willingly joined himself with the Force and gave up his physical form. So this was, I think, a very similar moment where he's finally realizing that maybe his hatred of the Jedi, based on this huge tragedy of losing his students, which very much mirrors what happened to his to his own father, and Anakin doing the same thing
and Obi-Wan.
And doing
his own mentor went through that same cycle.
Yeah. So he's gone through this cycle. He's now in that Obi-Wan position, and assuming nothing happens to Mark Hamill, God, please don't.
Oh, yes.
Because we need more Joker and stuff, too.
We just need more Mark
Twitter.
Hamill.
More Twitter from Mark Hamill.
No kidding. He's great.
We need more Mark Hamill, the person, the human being in the world. Love him.
Yeah, no, he's doing great out there, even when he's not doing anything at all. Like, he's got time to Twitter. Thank God. Yeah, I think he definitely will be in there as a guide to Rey.
And
who
maybe
knows?
the more optimistic Luke that we know and love.
Yeah, I think he will be at that point, because he'll have hopefully shedding his physical form and joining with the Force also leaves the baggage behind too.
Well,
I hope.
Well, that Yoda, the conversation he has with Yoda does that. I think does that to him to some extent.
So.
He says those books, nobody's read them. They're
I like how Yoda. They're kind of a dry read.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know what? He there was nothing when that tree burned up. There was nothing in there. Those books are sitting on the Falcon.
Yes.
Yep.
Ray took them.
But the ultimate...
Because how else is she going to learn, right?
Yeah, because Luke didn't want to teach her.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Empire, was Luke doing a lot of reading? No. He was not. He was jumping through Dagobah. That's just what was happening.
Yes. Well, it's because he had a teacher who was willing to teach him.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a blink and you miss it, but those books are sitting on the Falcon. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you know what? That leads to an interesting thought about how Rey may find what the true Jedi were versus the corruption they became in the corrupted organization they became in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Right? Because they were corrupt.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we revere Yoda as sort of this power and stuff like that, but really, the Jedi were like mooches. They would sit around and train each other, but what did they actually do? Aside from Obi-Wan...
They were peacekeepers.
They were
but
supposed
what were they doing?
to be.
Who did all the work?
They were Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was weird. They sort of, I don't know, they became Switzerland at certain points.
Yeah, they could kind of, they spend a lot of time sitting and resting.
They do have a Star Trek non-intervention clause too.
Yeah, right. I mean, aside from Qui-Gon Jinn, is that right? And Obi-Wan, and they were considered rebels within the organization, right? Because they were actively out there in the world.
And I think Yoda, to a certain extent, was also a rebel, because at a certain point, he's training Luke in Empire and other places. He's like, no, they trained them when they were really young. He's trained Luke as an adult.
Yeah, but I mean, Yoda is one of the few Jedi still alive. So who else is going to train Luke? And even Yoda says he doesn't want to. He's too old.
We could feasibly have an Obi-Wan ghost even in one of these future movies yet. Yeah. I mean, we know Obi-Wan's probably getting a movie of his own because
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor is that right age. We could see what he was doing on Tatooine to protect the family.
Sure.
And Luke off the side while he's a child and stuff. That alone would be a great adventure. I'd love to see that movie, and I think we're probably getting it. But we could still see Ewan McGregor come back as the ghost of Obi-Wan at some point in the next movie as a spirit guide as well. I mean, who would he be a spirit guide to at this point? But I mean, they could still put him in there if they wanted to.
If the theory that I've been reading about regarding Rey's lineage,
she could be
a Kenobi.
Yeah, she could be a Kenobi.
They're suggesting that's to move away from the Skywalker
grandchild.
Line. A grandchild, a grandniece, grandnephew, because Obi-Wan wasn't necessarily the only Kenobi, right?
Right? Of course.
And apparently the Kenobis are an old Jedi line in the Old Republic stories.
Right.
So,
I can see, being a grandfather, maybe. And that would be interesting if DJ was a Kenobi.
Yeah. I mean, it could be very interesting. I mean, there's so many ramifications and possibilities with this new trilogy, and I think they're finally starting to step in that direction. Where they're finally starting to come up with some new stuff.
I want them to break away from blatantly stealing from the original trilogy to tell their stories, because these characters are so interesting that I want them to go into new territory with these characters, and unfortunately I think we're probably still going to get one more yet that's going to feel very samey, but thankfully when we get out of it, they can't pull that trick anymore. They just can't.
What I liked about this, in kind of a certain difference in comparing Luke going to train with Yoda and Rey going to train with Luke, is in the original Empire, Luke, like you say, he's like, he gives up and he's like, you ask the impossible, all this stuff. Rey's never really about that. She's like, well, okay, Okay, I'll do this. Like, she's more
She's like,
open.
"Test me. Bring
She's
it
more
on."
hopeful.
Yeah.
She's more into this. And I like that kind of contrast. And I also think when, like, Yoda says she has everything she needs, I think he's also referring to, like, her character. She's not this young Luke. Like, I think that's why he didn't want to train Luke. He's like, you got to grow up a bit, kid.
Yeah, well, and that was Yoda, like, initially didn't want to train Luke because he wasn't ready. He at least not in his headspace. It was always, I can't, it's too hard.
Yeah. Which Yoda references in this movie.
And he leaves before his training's complete, despite Yoda telling him otherwise. Like, you're going to doom them if you go.
Which turns out to not be the case, but...
No.
But there's other...
It would have wound up the same way whether he'd gone to Cod City or not, to Bespin.
That's true.
Yeah.
He served no purpose.
Yeah, dooming them... That, I mean, yes, Bespin was used to draw Luke in there, but the same fate would have beheld Han Solo anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he changed nothing at all.
No.
Right.
And then maybe that's what Yoda was getting at. You were going to serve no purpose. You were not going to help them.
Yeah.
Even though, that's what the Force was calling him to do that. And somewhere between Empire and Return of the Jedi, he got better.
Exactly.
Yeah, he completed his training somehow.
Yeah.
Right? How he did that with...
That's right, guys. We have not read all the Extended Universe books and
There's a lot
comic
to
books
read.
and stuff, and who knows what counts anymore and what doesn't, because things that aren't supposed to be canonical, some are starting to seep back in there, so who knows?
Yep.
I guess it's... and that's the great thing. If you don't like the way this is going, there's a whole universe of stuff that was written before this that goes in a different direction that might be a better one for you. I mean, and all the old stuff exists too.
Yeah. Now, let's talk... I'd like to talk to some of this movement to have this movie scrapped and remade.
Yeah, you know what?
Get over it.
Yeah, this
is not that bad.
The Star Wars entitlement has been pissing me off for years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even when it was going on with the prequel trilogy. Just get over it, guys. And even when it was happening when George Lucas was adding some new stuff into his movies. I said this in episode 23 when we did A New Hope and Force Awakens, and I'm going to say this now. It's his art. He has the right to change it.
Yeah, it's not yours.
There are famous painters who've painted over paintings, and he could... you don't own it, he does, and you drove him away from his own property because of this bullshit.
Yeah.
And guess what? You probably really want him back now.
Exactly.
But, I mean, ultimately, while it's not as strong as Empire, I still think it's a good movie.
I think
really good.
I think it's a decent movie as well. It still doesn't sit as well with me, but Force Awakens doesn't sit well with me either. I love these new characters. I hate the fact that they just keep giving me the same shit that I know already. Like, I've seen A New Hope a million times. I've seen Empire, and I've seen Return of the Jedi a bazillion times. And trust me, I'm going to notice when you steal from it. Yeah. Thankfully, it's not a beat-for-beat kind of story like Force Awakens was, so it does feel a bit fresh, and there is new stuff in here. But it still doesn't sit well with me because it just, like, guys, you were pandering to us, and you have great and interesting characters, and you're doing them a disservice by giving them the same. It feels like this story with these Skywalkers is cyclic and is inescapable and inevitable, and
the Empire
and kind of pointless
Order,
to tell it to me again and again
and
again.
everything else. Like, I mean, it's sort of, to me, part of the problem was it's. I know you have to have something for the rebels to be fighting against, but it seems like the same enemy again and again, and you could, if you change that a little bit, I think that would feel fresher.
Yeah. And maybe that's what's sitting not well with me, and that's something that's missing is because I really am attached to these new characters and I really like them, but I don't feel like they're traveling their path. They're just traveling old characters' paths.
Mm-hmm.
To a certain extent, yes.
Speaking of something that I don't know, I that felt new to me but was still a nod to the old one was Death of Emperor / Death of Snoke.
Oh, that was definitely straight out of Jedi, right? Like that was the end game of Jedi, which sets it up for something different.
That does make me happy because now so many pieces are off the table that would have been in a Jedi-ish remake.
Phasma's gone.
Exactly.
Phasma's gone. Yeah, Snoke is gone, who's basically the Emperor. So you have no choice now. There's probably elements. Who knows? I mean, Jabba, how old he is at this point, he could be a shrivel up little worm. But
Jabba's dead.
Jabba's dead. But maybe there's other Hutts.
Yes, there are lots of other Hutts.
True.
But who knows? Like, they're kind of at a point where they have to tell a new story. Although they could still wind up in a desert planet.
But I did like
Sarlacc
that
pits.
whole interaction where, I'll say it, Emo Ren.
Yay!
Exactly. Just takes Snoke out. And there's not a big, huge battle right before. He just does it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for Rey. And I thought that was just so great.
It was
it's for Rey at first.
Yeah.
But he thinks it's for Rey.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He is doing it for Rey in his head.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not truly for Rey, but it's how he interprets.
He's got these two people. One's trying to save him, and one's trying to really corrupt him and turn him into that Sith Lord that Vader was. And there's this struggle in between, and he kind of wants both. Like, he sees Rey,
but he wants the power too.
And there's a link between the two via the Force. But he's already been corrupted by that power, and he'd rather have her join him than the other way around.
And this is the whole thing.
He wants his cake and eat it too.
Yeah, but it's how somebody who creates a relationship in their head that doesn't really exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in his head, he thinks this is love. I think he loves her.
Oh my God, Rey everybody wants Rey.
I believe that he loves her, or what he believes love to be.
Yeah.
Rey loves him, but in a more open way, like she just wants to save him.
Yeah.
Which is like
that's
more
just the person she is.
Open
the innate
love.
goodness of that character.
Yeah, she's gonna come out a very pure Jedi. She's gonna very much be that religious figure, I think, by the end. That begins the new Jedi Order in its purest form.
Maybe I would like to see her go more the opposite way, where that balanced area. Where
I believe she's the balance.
That balance between light and dark, right? Because I see that in her. She has the right moral character to make the right decisions, but she's also willing to do the things she needs to do.
Yeah, but this is Disney we're talking about. They're like, well, we can't move this franchise forward without bad guys. So
true.
It's always going to be light and dark, light and dark.
That's true.
I mean, that yours is probably more interesting, but it's a little more final too.
Yeah.
That's the dream, though, that she brings the balance to the Force. Because ultimately, when they talk about bringing balance to the Force, Luke could be doing that by training Rey and getting things emotional.
If they end this cycle with the Skywalkers with this one, so you got a trilogy of trilogies of the Skywalker lineage. Let's be done there, and you can start telling off one-offs or start a new trilogy with brand new characters. And you don't necessarily have to have them. You can have some Force-powered characters or not. I mean, that's something I liked about Rogue One, where you had that monk guy who very much praised the Jedi but wasn't among them and had some minor Force abilities. So we see those levels, and that just opens up so much.
But that makes the most sense. That's what religions are.
Yeah.
You have the one kind of baseline, and then you have all these offshoots that are
and they say
kind
that
of the same.
The Sith and Jedi are not the only Force users in the universe.
Yeah.
They're just the most prominent. And this actually leads me to a question, and I'm not sure if you caught it when you guys watched it. Luke says that Kylo had killed some of the Jedi, the Padawan, but some of them were missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is he training his own Knights of Ren? They keep talking about the Knights of Ren. But what are they?
I kind of was thinking that he took some.
Yes.
I've been thinking that for a while.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's very likely we're going to see them in the next go around.
I would hope. I would hope that,
which I could feel would be just absolutely amazing if that some of his, because he's not good at training them, they would have this incredible conflict where they might not want to go to the dark side or be like part of the Ren, and that would be
if
a rebellion within his own.
If Rey can't save Emo Ren, then maybe there's somebody else she can save.
Exactly.
And then of course you also have, as you mentioned, these young people. This sort of movement of people sort of supporting the rebellion, like the kid at the very end of the movie with holding the broom like a sword, like a lightsaber.
Well, just grabbing it out of the air using the Force.
Yeah.
Yep. So, there are new Force-talented children being introduced, and there's, I can see a whole new generation is going to be trained. And who knows? We don't know what kind of time jump we're going to have. There's always usually some sort of time jump, especially when you look at the original trilogy. New Hope and Empire are fairly close together, although there's a period of, especially with Darth Vader, where he's been this disgraced leader and is built back up to somebody who's feared by Empire. So how did he get there? And the comics have told that story. Yeah. But there's much bigger gap between Empire and Jedi. So I think we're going to get something like that too. We're going to have a much bigger gap and see the rebellion in a different and maybe a better position.
The rebellion has to rebuild.
Right?
Absolutely. They absolutely have to rebuild, and they've set it up for that.
And you don't need to tell that story on screen. You just have to tell people that it's happened, and then you can fill that in later. It could be a different movie. It could be in book, comic, whatever.
I'll put
we're going to learn more about DJ, and by the time this podcast drops, the DJ one shot will be out from Marvel Comics.
And I want to say, the one thing I noticed that was kind of, to me, I found to be a marginally big difference in these two movies is the feeling I had at the end. Like the end of Empire, I'm like, that's kind of like a bummer note ending. But the end of this one, they went out of their way to say, no, there is hope for the future. And that is what they needed to end on. I feel like in today's climate, that's what they had to do.
Well, because the whole movie, the rest of the movie is like moment of futility after moment of futility after moment of futility. So right up until that last half of the third act, you're like really hopeless, and then they give it to you.
And it's it's a little less of a cliffhanger. You're not going, what, like at Empire, well, what's next for Han? Oh my God, what's going on? You don't have as much of that happening. I mean, you've got, is Rose going to be okay?
Yeah.
That's kind of about it.
Yeah.
Really? So...
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Or where do they go, and what happened to all these other
so you can,
rebel bases?
You can do a time jump, and I'm not sure what they're going to do with the whole Leia situation and whether there's any footage left to be used for the next film. But I mean, with that time jump, you could say something happened, the base where she was exploded, or just say she's leading and not show her.
Yeah,
we've got some orders coming in from Leia.
Yeah. Ooh, and if you did it where there's orders coming in from Leia where they do the tiny hologram they did in Star Wars, it wouldn't look so bad as when she's CGI'd over somebody's face.
I loved when they took that and did that R2-D2 use that against Luke.
Loved it.
That was so great. That was something that this movie, sometimes it's a little heavy-handed and works against it, but I felt a lot like Luke. That's unfair.
Yeah.
Because you're tugging on some heartstrings here. So I was very much like Luke. He was almost speaking for me. Oh, don't do that. That's unfair. Yeah. Come on.
But
dude.
But that's R2. R2
is shameless.
Yeah.
He's tough love. That's what R2 is. He doesn't give a crap. He'll tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Now, did either of you find the humor, especially in that first act, really heavy-handed?
Not particularly.
I wasn't. Some of the CGI creatures, it was weird.
It didn't bother me. It was cutesy. I mean, they were throwing a lot of that in their Marvel stuff, but I didn't think it was heavy-handed. I really loved it when, you have that really long scene at the end of Force Awakens and spinning around the fucking mountain.
I like that bit.
Handing him the lightsaber, and you finally get to the moment where he takes it in this one after such a long spin in Force Awakens, just to have him toss it over his shoulder over the cliff. I mean, I just burst out laughing. I'm it was great.
The physical humor was actually not bad. I'm talking about the really obvious one-liners. Especially that first bit of dialogue with Poe Dameron.
I think they're giving you some lighter tone because to what comes later, right?
Yeah. I think so, but I think that's one of the things that it doesn't fit the tone of Star Wars.
It's not superly well balanced. Yeah. I think it's always been there.
It's always been there, but it's always been a lot more subtle, right?
I mean, Han used to drop some great stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But they weren't deliberate one-liners like they are in this movie. Like, that whole bit with Poe Dameron, it is so deliberate, right? I'll hold, right? Where I mean, he's killing time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it felt out of place. in a
Yeah,
Star Wars movie.
and maybe because it feels too familiar to us, like that they don't live in our world,
No.
so there shouldn't be telemarketers.
There shouldn't be hold.
There shouldn't be. I'll put you on hold. Like it
Or
does.
like, you're cutting out.
It's popping you out of that reality.
Yeah.
And I, you know what? As cute as I thought that scene was, I do agree because I did feel like I popped out.
Yeah, and there are a couple other moments. The scene where Rey cuts the stone and it falls down in front of the inhabitants of that island.
That I liked because the
Yeah.
way those characters rolled their eyes, they were like,
Yeah,
See, that freaked me
they're
out. I
working
was like,
so hard
I
maintaining
liked it, but
this
it felt
island.
out of place in the movie.
To
Does that
me-
make sense?
That one didn't as
No.
much because they'd already established that these caretakers and that's what they're for, and you don't see them until she starts disrupting things.
Yeah.
there's
because they don't have anything to do.
there was a lot of slapstick on Dagobah as well. When you think about it,
There was some, yeah.
Yeah.
the only part about that was I screamed because I was like, and then I'm like, why are we laughing? She almost killed someone. Like, this is not a funny bit. She's very irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that made me mad.
Yeah, no, and you make a good point. There is quite a bit of slapstick on Dagobah as well.
Like when
but
Archie gets
especially with
swallowed
R2,
and
yeah.
spit out.
yeah, no,
Yeah, but it's more the one-liners.
just
There were a
different.
lot of really one-liners that kind of popped you out. They didn't feel like they
Yeah.
fit into
Oh
the
yeah,
movie.
the I'll hold installing that really did.
Yeah, I think that's Ryan Johnson overindulging because he did write the script there as well, and hopefully there won't be because that really wasn't in JJ's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
humor, but it's balanced humor.
It's
Well-
Star Wars type of humor,
yeah.
right?
So hopefully that won't be in there. I'm like, if you have a different characters, go ahead and do that, but don't have them rely on a modern Earth sensibility
Yeah.
to for the joke to
Well-
land because it'll pop you out. Because no, that I don't like the idea
Well-
of hold.
What I think he was trying to do was to do his own spin on the very first movie where Han says, "How's everything there? Everything's great here. It's
You're right,
fine.
yeah.
How are you?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it worked there, right?
Yeah, because it was short. I think it was too long. If it had been shortened, I think it might have worked.
It might have worked,
Yeah.
and the choice of words makes a difference. And there are some great one-liners in there that are perfect for the character. Like there's a scene where Luke's asking Rey where she's from. She says, "Nowhere," and she says, "No, really, where are you from?" "Oh, Jakku." "Oh, that really
It
is
really is
nowhere."
Yeah.
That,
Yeah,
right. That
works.
worked. That was
Yeah.
in character for Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. When you're breaking character and even breaking the reality of the world, then the joke probably should have been cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? The thing is, we don't know. We still don't know enough about Poe Dameron because we didn't get a lot of him in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, well, he's got an ongoing comic
Yeah.
book series, so they're
Oh, that could be
expanding
why.
him there.
They are,
so.
but as a moviegoer who's not read any of the comic books, I don't know enough about him to know if that is in character for him.
True.
Right? And based on his characterization later through the rest of the movie, it's not. Yes, he's a kind of a rogue, but that type of sort of really
I think that's kind of
Daddy.
established even in Force Awakens,
Yeah.
though. But
Yeah.
I don't know if he was intended to go further than Force Awakens, but then people liked him. So they've written some new stuff.
what I wonder.
And that's part of the problem. They didn't know who he was yet.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't initially intended for him to go any further. But because
Yeah.
the response to the character was good, they did more. Huh. Go figure. They never do that with the villains.
The funny thing with the Star Wars movies is watching them. I'm always kind of looking around, like going, which minor character is everybody really going to love? Because
That
there's
they're
always
never-
one or
that they're
two.
going to kill off just to piss us off.
Yeah, there's always one or two where you're like, I love them. Not going to survive,
Yeah.
but I love them.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I could have cared less about Phasma.
I'm
you
very
don't get
taken with her.
I just had a high hope.
I love her look, but do you really get to know this character? She has almost no dialogue.
I
in
was
Force Awakens.
hoping
She's got a
more.
comic book and I think a novel as well that really expands on who she is. But with Huff, she and Huff and Snoke were the ones that built the First Order.
Yeah, but see, that's the problem.
That's what we should have
And
found out.
all that information is being handled in other places that,
In other media,
and
which
we shouldn't have to rely on other media to tell those stories.
that's exactly it.
I mean, you could at least make some sort of reference to fill in those gaps without taking up a lot of time. It's just one piece of dialogue.
Yeah, and
like,
short,
why
some
is
of
this-
these really long. These
why
episodes
is this?
are optional.
Why are these characters important? I mean, she's the one that basically resurrected the stormtroopers because, based on the old Empire, why would you do that again?
Yeah.
So she's the one that trained all these guys and created these new
that
troopers.
would explain why she's so hates Finn, because Finn is a failure for her.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
for
But they
sure.
don't explain that.
Yeah.
I think there's enough of that there that you do get it.
They suggest it without.
At least there's something there for you to go, yeah, that's a failure for her. But
is-
there's not enough there to.
But it doesn't
really
explain the
grab
depth
onto.
of her failure. That's
No.
that's the problem.
No.
They've introduced all these really great characters, and I know that Boba Fett was similar. Like he had a lot of stuff that you didn't see in the movies, but you did. But you still really liked Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in this one, I didn't have as much. I liked Phasma, and I wanted to see more of her. I think that was the problem. Is I didn't see
That's
enough
it.
of her.
Yeah.
So that when her end came along, it didn't feel as great as when Boba went.
Well, you needed it to be more meaningful.
I don't think it was great when Boba went.
Well, no, it
because-
was more meaningful, I guess.
because I didn't get enough of him either.
Yeah.
So and I didn't really get to know, what that relationship was other than him it was just another bounty. I mean, you don't know how cool Boba is until you start reading the comic books and novels and stuff. There's just this guy in some cool armor that gets wasted in the third movie. It's
in a very anticlimactic manner.
yeah, I mean,
so
really, at the end of the day, they're the same.
Yeah.
We like these characters, and there's nothing on screen to tell us why, and to expand more. I mean, and I guess that was them going, yep,
We're just going
to do that again. In fact, there's probably more on screen for Phasma than there was for Boba. So,
Yeah.
That's true. She definitely did get
She
more
has more
screen
lines.
time. Yeah, she does have more
because
dialogue.
I remember being really pissed off when he drops them in the Sarlacc pit, and I'm like, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
What?
Oh,
I know, right?
Yeah, totally anticlimactic.
Right.
And Phasma's demise was very similar. It was anticlimactic. It's like, really? That's how she's going to go?
Was it just me, or did the fight feel really short? Because I was expecting an epic battle, and then and then she falls.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it too. And I'm like,
I was
well,
like, she's gonna get back. No.
I'm like, Jesus, you're
Damn it.
just gonna do this to me again. I can't believe you keep fucking with me like this.
But it speaks to your comment earlier about the lack of development of the opposing side. You don't get to know the characters on the opposing side. You don't understand their motivations, why why they do what they do.
Yeah, and
they're just the bad guy.
It should have been. I don't know. It should have felt different than the Empire to me to make it seem different. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, I know they're a terrible, nefarious force, but there's got to be some way you could make them different. It just felt like I was watching the Empire again. It really did.
Yeah. And well, like I said, they mixed and matched and even stole a little bit from Jedi. It still applied for the show, which is kind of great because we got to do this again. And we'll do it again for the next one, even if there is no correlation whatsoever.
There will be parallels.
There'll probably be some parallels, but even
might
if
be a
they're
lot
not,
less.
if you like these episodes, we'll do this one more time in 2 years, I guess, if we're still around. And
If the world hasn't exploded.
and complete the trilogy of these comparisons. I mean, some of you probably don't like it, but we're gonna do it anyway because it's our opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
You don't have to agree with us. I mean, I'm sure, and as the aggregate showed on Rotten Tomatoes, it is very much 50-50 on this movie.
Yeah.
So-
And I know I'm 50-50 on the movie. There are lots of things about it I liked and some that I didn't.
I didn't come out hating it. There's things that don't sit well with me, but I, for the most part, enjoy it. I can't wait to see more of these characters.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly
Well,
it.
actually, I can.
You have to.
I have to, and I can wait. Like I could wait a little longer, to be honest, because I'd rather you give me a whole new story to end this thing off, and a good one, rather than what's left of Jedi that we didn't already take. But hopefully Rian Johnson took enough of it. They're going, well, we can't do this again.
Yeah.
We'll keep our fingers
And-
crossed.
I know there are lots of parallels between this and Empire. I like I say, the characters. I'm still very in love with the characters, and that still makes me happy to see these movies.
Yeah.
And like you say, with Rose and Finn, they are analogs to the two androids, but I mean they're still still kind of feel a little bit new to me. I like Rey. I like Kylo Ren. That connection they had.
That's not his name. That's not his name.
Emo Ren.
Thank you.
Okay. The connection they had throughout was kind of interesting to watch for something different that I hadn't seen before. I thought that was a little bit unique to this whole story where it was interchanged between the two of them.
And that was a new element I actually kind of did like. It did inform a lot of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I do like what they've been doing with Kylo /Emo Ren /Ben.
Yeah,
I've been engaged with that story, even though I think he's funny looking and he needs to get a new helmet.
And the connection between him and Rey is something that I like exploring, that because it is different than Luke and Darth Vader, because it's not father-son. Yeah. It's these two people.
And what is the connection? Did that connection form in Force Awakens? Because there probably wasn't one before. So why are they talking to each other via Force, and why is that
Snoke
connection
says he
so strong? Well, he does, yes. But it continues after Snoke's dead.
True.
But maybe once that bond is put out there, it's harder to
Or maybe
turn
they've
off.
opened themselves up to it now, and now
that's true.
happening.
They're facilitating it now. I don't know. It's interesting. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet, star-crossed lovers, or
Except Romeo and Juliet are trying to kind of kill each other. It's a very different story. But I would pay to watch that. Let's do that.
It's like FaceTiming with the enemy.
Yeah.
It's like, that was a good fight, right? Yeah, it was good. Sorry, I'm going to have to try to kill you again tomorrow, but...
But I love how they can see each other, but like he can never tell where she is.
Yeah.
And she can always see where he is. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of it suggests
it's worth expanding.
It's worth
absolutely. I'm hoping they do more of that in the new one.
And I'm hoping we find out what happened to the kids who went with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could lead to a very interesting story with all these other Force users, whether they be Sith or Knights of Ren or whatever you want to call them. But I would like to see these other Force users.
And that could be where the next movie's going. God knows we already wrote one.
Yep.
So
we did it. Maybe that's it. This a new Force users, and we're talking about putting together the new Rebel Alliance, not being so Switzerland. Maybe the Jedi are thinking the universe. We're part of the universe. We have to take a stand at some point. We can't just sit on the sidelines, otherwise we get destroyed too. So.
And maybe you have Rey building a Jedi army versus Emo Ren's Sith or Knights of Ren. You could have one of those epic lightsaber battles like we did in the prequel trilogy, which could be so much fun. Ripped off, but
we see somebody else who has a purple lightsaber.
What are your fan theories? We've told you some of our theories of where this franchise is going. Why don't you tell some of yours? You can do that over on Facebook and Instagram now. We are on Instagram, so send us messages there. Invasion of the Remake, of course. We are on Twitter at Invasion Remake. And you can email us directly, invasionoftheremake@gmail.com. If you got a really good theory, I'll read it out on the air.
Nice.
For sure. This could go a bunch of different ways, and hopefully not the obvious Jedi way.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're getting Ewoks. Oh my God, can you imagine Porgs with spears?
I don't imagine them with spears because they kind of fly. I imagine them dropping rocks and stuff on them.
What if Chewie just ejects them out of the Falcon to tie up somebody's engines that's chasing him? It's horrible, but at least useful. Yeah. Porg blunder.
Okay, then they gotta name at least one of the Empire pilots Sully, if he manages to land.
There we go.
Plane.
He saves one to stuff and use the dice in a car, just hanging from the window.
Yeah, no, we can't.
Do I like the Porgs? Not really. They look delicious.
The Porgs, the only thing that I thought they looked cute. I really did.
They are adorable.
But I just would really, I hate it when I watch something and I know I'm watching merchandise.
Yep.
It irritates the hell out of me. It's like, don't put a commercial in the middle of my fucking movie. I just want to watch the movie.
That's episode 1. That entire movie's in merchandising. It's very much obvious merchandising.
Well, so was Jedi.
Yeah, by that point. I suppose so. Yeah, you're looking at that's going to make a good toy set.
Yep.
Yeah, and you've got a new character that we can sell as
Ewoks,
figures.
Endor, land speeders.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're going to keep that merchandising machine going a long, long time. So, if you guys like this episode and you like episodes like this and all of our other episodes, share it out with your friends. If you see us post on Twitter and Facebook, repost it on your wall and tell people how to find the show. You can do that by telling them we're on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Blueberry, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, Spreaker, and even...
Frickin' YouTube.
I did it again.
What the hell?
I was spacing out. I was thinking about something else. I'm sorry.
Use the Force, Sam.
Frickin' YouTube.
Use the
Frickin'
Force.
YouTube.
We are even on frickin' YouTube, so go check us out in all those places and tell people where they can find us. And of course, we are on Libsyn, our host site as well, so you can just click on the page and all of our episodes are there as well.
If you just Google us,
Yeah.
we're right at the
Google
beginning.
Invasion of the Remake, and we are like the first 2 pages.
Absolutely.
So you will find a podcast provider that is right for you.
Don't force it.
Oh, Jesus, like that joke?
We got all the way through without a pun, and then...
And it's usually me.
I know that's why I had to do it, because we missed out. I gotta do something for fucking up the freaking YouTube.
Well, yeah, and that'll help get more
Earballs.
on the show. She's on it.
She's totally on it. I was spaced out. I was thinking about something else that I had to do for the podcast for later on, and I wasn't paying attention. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
for good God.
See, I kind of always look at you because you kind of do a conducting thing, and I always see it.
That's true. And I do it without hitting my mic.
I have this weird...
Yeah, you got
Yours is just set up the way-
You got the arm, and it's a little lower than the rest of our mics.
Yeah, it's hard, and
I'm doing
we
that,
all
though.
talk with our hands. If
Yeah.
we had that, we probably would do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't done it today.
No, I've been very
You've been
very
real
aware of
good.
it, yeah.
Okay, well, any last thoughts before we go?
Quit hating on this movie. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
And may the force be with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Always.
It's yeah. Don't whinge about this movie. It's good. Screw it.
Yeah,
I liked
mean,
it.
we've had worse.
We've had much worse.
Oh God, we've had so much worse.
Yes.
Jar Jar, just Jar Jar.
I mean, really, if you want to balance good and bad, we are about 50-50 with Star Wars, so, you know...
add these in, we're getting a little bit more
That's
of
a
the
little
positive
bit,
ends.
That's a little
60,
bit better than the
60,
DC
40.
Universe franchise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And they keep cranking those movies out.
Yep.
Yeah, every one of those is Phantom Menace except Wonder Woman. Although, what was it? The latest one that we went to go see? What was
Justice League?
Justice League. Yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't too bad.
That wasn't bad. I thought they were on the right track. It wasn't great, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
was certainly
It's good for DC.
not as good as Wonder Woman, but better than the rest.
Absolutely, yeah. I have to say it's much
a
better
step in
than
the right
others.
direction, and sadly, I think they might try to, because it didn't make $1 billion, they might, even though they're heading in the right direction, that they might go in the wrong direction because of it. I don't know. I'm hoping they
not.
don't, but they were going in the right direction on that, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully people give that movie a chance because it's better than you think,
Yeah.
but not as good as you hope.
Exactly. I know you've been burned by DC, but give this one a chance.
Yeah, but until then, we got lots of Star Wars, and we got Han Solo to look forward to for next year. I hope.
Well, this year it's supposed to be out.
Oh, this
Yeah.
year, yeah. I guess it's 2018, so it'll be out soon.
Unless they
I
push
hope
it out.
the
they do it based on what
I'm
I've been
hoping
hearing.
the fears and what we've been hearing. It's just been one disaster after another with that movie in the news cycle.
Yeah.
But hopefully, it's better than they're making it out to be. I mean, Jesus, if you want us to go see your movie, maybe show some
Yeah.
confidence in it.
Although, because it's never really kind of came to force when it first came out, if you look at like kind of a lot of the trivia with Empire, there were some definite problems with it, and then look what we got.
That's
So-
true.
Still widely considered the best film of the Star Wars film series.
So from a great
I would
struggle,
agree
you
with
can
get
get amazing products. So
Yeah, so I don't
Hopefully
know.
that's
I'm
what's
looking
happening.
forward to it. Hopefully the voice is right. I don't know if it is or not, but we'll all find out together. And we'll talk about it a little bit on the podcast when we finally get a chance to see it, but it won't be a full-on episode like this one was. So we'll catch you on episode 9. But we got lots of other remakes and movies to remake in the meantime over the next couple of years. So until then, I've been Jason,
I am always Sam.
I continue to be Trish.
and we are out of here.
Yet realize your importance. You have only begun to discover your power. Join me, and I will complete your training. With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy.
I'll never join you!
If you only knew the power of the dark side. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
He told me enough.